We're about 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day on this Monday of a very busy week. Alix Steel and Katie Greifeld, we are here to help you take you through the closing bell in a global simulcast. We are joined by Tim Stenovec and Emily Graffeo, bringing together on Bloomberg Television, Radio, and YouTube audiences worldwide to parse through the most crucial moments of the trading day. But guys, Tim, it's a little boring right now.
Yeah, it's okay to say that. I agree. But I think it's boring for a reason, because we have a huge week. I mean, the Fed kicking off its two-day policy meeting tomorrow. We got July employment figures coming on Friday. We got a huge number of earnings this week, including from 4 of the Mag 7. So, investors taking a step back today and saying, okay, we'll wait to see what Jay Powell says on Wednesday.
And they're really taking a step back from the Russell 2000, that rotation trade that we talked about, investors moving out of mega cap tech stocks into these smaller names. It wasn't playing today with the Russell down over 1%.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We were just talking to Nancy Tengler, who said that basically this rotation into small caps, it's a trade. It's not an investment. You'd need to see either an aggressive rate cutting cycle or fantastic earnings. We'll see, of course, if any of that materializes, but it's true. Today, at least, the rotation trade taking a pause.
What is really interesting, guys, is that I keep getting notes talking about certain funds, systemic funds, like volatility of funds, like CTAs, that they're going to have to keep selling, particularly if volatility winds up picking up. And you have to wonder where that selling was today. All right, we are just moments away from that closing bell. There it is. Nothing to see here, guys. Maybe tomorrow will be a little bit more exciting when we get Microsoft. Volume also very, very light. The S&P, we're settling out here, but the S&P looks to be pretty flat, just up by about 4 points. The Dow Jones Industrial Average up by about 0.1%. The NASDAQ also pretty much flat, just up by about 12 points. Volume quite sad. Tim.
Okay, maybe folks are on vacation. Maybe they're just waiting for what happens later this week. The S&P 500, 277 stocks moved higher. Katie, let's go ahead, actually, 276 as they get settled. 223 did decline.
All right, take a look at the sector level right now. You had more green than red, of course. 7 sectors in the green, led by consumer discretionary, up about 1.4%. It certainly helps that you had Tesla up about 5.6%. Also a nice reminder that Tesla is a consumer discretionary stock. Now you go to the other side, though, what didn't too hot today. Energy leading the way to the bottom. Energy down about 0.9%, followed quickly by tech there, off by about 0.3%.
Okay, I'm going to talk about some of the stocks that did move higher. You mentioned the consumer discretionary stock Tesla. Shares did finish the day higher by more than 5%. The reason they rallied today is because Morgan Stanley came out and named the company as its new top pick within the U.S. auto sector. It replaced Ford. Adam Jonas over at Morgan Stanley maintains his overweight rating. He's got a street high $310 price target on Tesla. Ford also is still overweight among Morgan Stanley's coverage. Cost cuts and restructuring have helped to restrict the downside of Tesla's EV business, according to Adam Jonas over at Morgan Stanley. Tesla shares higher by 5.6% today. On semi shares, rising double digits today. It's the biggest intraday advance going all the way to November of 2022, up more than 11.5%. The company did report second quarter adjusted earnings per share that came in ahead of estimates. KeyBank Capital Markets said the results were strong, but third-party guidance was mixed. Investors shrugging off that mixed element, setting shares higher by 11.5%. And McDonald's out early before the bell this morning with its latest report, and investors shrugging off the company's first sales drop in 4 years. Executives at McDonald's pledged to launch new promotions to help stem a decline in customer visits. Comp store sales fell 1% from a year prior in the second quarter. It came short of analyst expectations. Each of McDonald's geographic segments also saw sales declines, though the decline in same-store sales seems to have been less pronounced than some on Wall Street expected. Shares finished the day higher by 3.7%, but they did rise more than 4% in intraday trading.
Are we not into McDonald's, Tim? Is this not a thing for you?
I haven't been to McDonald's in many, many years, but apparently the $5 value menu is back. Yeah, and the average check with that comes in at $10, so it's doing its job of getting people in and spending more money. But it remains to be seen what they do, how they add to the value menu to keep bringing folks in.
Yeah,
I just don't know how they do it for so little money.
I mean, I think isn't this like the classic company thing? Like, do you have volume versus margin? And if you get enough people in the door, then basically that will wind up helping your margins at the end of the day because the revenue, the top line.
Yeah, you just hope that they just keep buying soda, more and more soda, because the margins on soda are so good.
Okay, Tim is talking soda and burgers. I'm talking beers because Heineken ADRs were dropping over 10% today, the worst drop since March 2020, after the company said it took a one-time impairment of roughly $949 million for the decline in valuation of its stake in China's largest brewer. The Dutch brewer cited a fall in the valuation of its stake in China Resources Beer Holdings Company due to concerns about consumer demand in the mainland that have affected its share price. The brewer also said that consumer spending is under pressure in both the U.S. and Europe. I'm also looking at shares of Charles Schwab, that stock down about 2% after the financial firm was downgraded to neutral from overweight at Piper Sandler. Analyst Patrick Moley said the tenets of his bullish argument haven't materialized and that he expects uncertainty around the firm's strategic shift to weigh on shares. And this is coming after Charles Schwab said earlier this month it plans to reduce the size of its bank and rely more on partnerships. And lastly, Integra Life Sciences, that stock plunging about 22% after the medtech company cut its revenue and profit forecast for the full year, finishing down about 19%. So a little bit of a recovery, but not much. The firm also gave guidance for the third quarter that fell short of estimates.
All right, guys, let's get to the bond market here. So it was an interesting day, but we did get interesting stuff coming at 3. So all across the curve, you saw a touch of buying, maybe on the back end, yields down by about 3 basis points. The front end really couldn't make up its mind of where it was going to go. But the question about a steepener coming into play continues as we head into that Fed meeting and Jobs Friday. At the top of the 3 o'clock hour, we heard the U.S. Treasury reduced its estimate for federal borrowing for the current quarter and projected the government's cash buffer to decline toward year end, just ahead of a possible fresh fight over the debt limit. Yay, we love the debt limit fight. But the Treasury Department said in a statement that it now estimates about $740 billion in net borrowing for July through September. So that might take a little bit of pressure off maybe the long end that some might have been expecting, Tim.
Okay, well, you're talking treasuries, I'm talking Tesla, because there was an article out today from Craig Trudell that talked about an analyst. You guys know full self-driving. Tesla full self-driving, right?
FSD.
I mean,
FSD.
In theory, like it does it for you?
Yeah, theory is a good word to use because it's not actually fully autonomous, despite the name full self-driving. So an analyst over at Truist, William Stein, he test drove a Tesla vehicle, used full self-driving, and narrowly avoided a crash, Emily.
He said that the Model Y that he was driving accelerated through an intersection as the car in front of him had only partly completed a right turn. And then he said that his quick intervention was absolutely required to avoid an otherwise certain accident. So in other words, if he hadn't intervened, the car would have crashed. You still needed that human touch in this full self-driving car.
Well, you guys, we kicked off at 3 p.m. One of the first things we did was talk to Ed Ludlow about this. And an important clarification, apparently he was driving the 12.3.6 version of FSD.
Okay.
Alex, feel free to come in here. Apparently that was the, they've updated it since. So he put out this note and then they rolled out the next update, I think today. So I don't know. Maybe that problem has been fixed in this most recent update, but I think the broader point remains that when it comes to solving that problem of full autonomy, full self-driving, that maybe we're still a ways off.
This is great. I really like this discussion. But really, do we care about anything but the Olympics? Because I was totally glued to my Peacock on Apple TV
I leave in a week.
All weekend. What's that?
I leave in a week. I'm going to the Olympics.
You're going to the Olympics?
Yeah, I'm competing. Just kidding.
No, but wait, I really believe that for a second.
Same with the McDonald's.
Can you imagine?
But I am flying out to the Olympics. I'm so excited. The opening ceremony's super interesting.
Super weird. Let's call it as it is.
Super weird. I did like the horse galloping on the water. That was kind of inspirational.
Was it though?
I thought it was.
Was it scary?
No, I thought I was revved up. I wanted to get out there.
Alex, how is I heard the Peacock experience has been great. They give you an option of like what to watch live, and it's kind of interactive.
So they do, and that's cool. And you can also like choose from many things, and there's like 4 different screens that you can be looking at, and that's great. But I like the commentary. I like the NBC packages. I like to feel things when I watch the Olympics, and they don't have that across all the boards, and that was very distressing to me.
I admit I'm planning on just watching the Simone Biles gymnastics routines on YouTube because all of these streaming options are very complicated.
Sadly, I've missed everything, and a lot of this competing happens while we're at work. So
you can do both.
yeah, can't do both.
You don't have
He's
to be
a really
hard
on your
worker.
computer.
Can't do both. Hard to do both. Alex, I'll swing by your desk and we can watch some Olympics. That is going to do it for our cross-platform coverage of the market close on Bloomberg TV, Radio, YouTube, and Bloomberg Originals. We'll see you guys tomorrow, same time, same place.